So let's find out why this man crashed out on his family.
This is entirely a domestic incident. So the suspect shot the mother of the child for children first, then responded to this location and shot 8 children, 7 of which being his own.
To a heartbreaking and horrific mass shooting in Shreveport, Louisiana. 8 children between the ages of 1 and 14 were killed in what police are calling a gruesome crime scene.
Sunday morning in Shreveport, Louisiana. The sun hadn't come up yet. Most of the Cedar Grove neighborhood was still sleeping. Porch lights on, dogs quiet. A normal weekend, about to turn into the worst day this city has ever lived through. Inside one small house on West 79th Street, 7 little bodies were lying where they'd been all night, tucked into beds, pressed up against cousins and siblings, some still holding on to stuffed animals. None of them were going to wake up. An 8th child, a little boy, tried to make it out. He climbed up on the roof. Whoever put him up there, or whoever he followed up there, thought maybe up high meant safe. It didn't. He got shot on that roof, and his body stayed there until police found him. The oldest was 11, the youngest was 3. And the man who pulled the trigger wasn't some stranger who broke in. He wasn't a burglar. He wasn't a neighbor with a grudge. He was their daddy. 7 of those babies called him daddy. The 8th was blood too, a cousin, family.
So this guy took out 7 of his kids and one of his, I guess, nephews. And they said one of the kids climbed up on the roof trying to get away, and he went either to the roof or maybe went to an angle where he can see the roof to shoot at the kid on the roof. That's crazy, bro.
Before that morning was over, he'd be dead himself, shot down in another parish after carjacking a stranger and leading police on a chase. His wife would be in a hospital bed with a bullet in her face. His girlfriend would be fighting for her life in the ICU. This is the story of April 19th, 2026. This is the Shreveport tragedy. And we need to talk about how it got to this. To understand that morning, you have to understand Shamar Elkins, or at least who people thought Shamar Elkins was. He was 31 years old, born in Shreveport, raised in Shreveport, known all over Shreveport. From 2013 to 2020, he wore the uniform of the Louisiana Army National Guard. His job titles sound important on paper: Signal Support System Specialist, Fire Support Specialist. He never got deployed overseas.
Hmm.
He left the Guard as a private, no medals, no combat record. But he wore that uniform for 7 years, and to the people around him, that meant something.
Okay.
That meant discipline. That meant a man who could be counted on. He was a father 7 times over. 3
Wow.
boys, 5 girls. His life on paper looked
Wait,
full.
wait. How many? How many kids?
3 boys, 5 girls.
They said he was a father 7 times over, but they're saying 3 boys, 5 girls. That's 8. Like, isn't the math ain't mathing with that one?
He was a father 7 times over. 3 boys, 5 girls. His life on paper looked full. Church on Sunday, birthdays, school pickups, a house with children's voices in every room. His wife was the mother of most of those kids. Other children came from other relationships: the Pughs, the Snows, the Elkins kids. Different last names, but all of them born from him.
Hmm.
Cousins in and out of the house. A whole web of little lives tied to this one man. Now the cracks were there. They'd always been there. Back in 2019, Shamar did something that should have been a red flag the size of a highway billboard.
Okay, what he did.
He fired a handgun near Caddo Magnet High School. Children were outside. Bullets were going off in the direction of a school full of kids. You'd think that kind of thing would get a man put away. It didn't. He pleaded guilty to illegal use of weapons. The judge gave him 18 months of probation, no prison, no jail, no mandatory treatment. He walked out of that courtroom, went back to his life, and kept raising his children.
What
Let
was
that sit for a
what was the
second.
reason he did that though?
A man discharged a firearm near a school, and the system looked at him and said, "Stay out of trouble for a year and a half, and we'll call it even." 7 years later, those same hands would be used to end 8 young lives. On social media, the picture he painted was a beautiful one. A few weeks before the killings, he posted an Easter photo. Him and his children, all dressed up, fresh out of church, Sunday best, little bow ties, little dresses, smiles lined up across the couch. A man who looked blessed. Hours before the shooting, he posted again.
Mm.
This time about taking his oldest daughter on what he called a daddy-daughter date, a burger spot, just the two of them, the kind of post you scroll past 100 times a day and never think twice about.
Mm.
That little girl had no idea. Neither did the internet. But 10 days before that morning, something had shifted.
Okay.
A post went up that hit different. Something about mental health.
Mm.
Something about praying. And not a clear cry for help. Not something you could screenshot and send to 911. Just a man who sounded tired, sounded low, sounded like he was carrying something heavy and didn't know where to put it down. People scrolled past it. What most of the world didn't see was the rest of it. Shamar and his wife were separating. There was a court date coming up, custody, the formal end of a life they had built together.
Mm.
Anybody who has ever been through a breakup with children involved knows how that kind of timeline works on a person.
Damn.
It winds you up. It backs you into corners of yourself you didn't know existed. For some people, separation is a paperwork process. For others, it becomes a pressure cooker with no release valve.
Okay.
Shamar Elkins was in that pressure cooker. Cedar Grove, where this all happened, I will tell you everything about Shreveport if you know how to read a neighborhood. Working class, quiet, families that have been on the same block since the 90s.
Okay.
One man who lives on that same street, 71 years old, said he's lived there since 1991 and never in his life heard of anything like what happened.
Mm.
Never. Not on that block. Houses sit close together in Cedar Grove. Kids run between yards. You know which car belongs to which neighbor. You hear the music, you hear the dogs, you hear when something isn't right.
Okay.
On the night of April 18th, going into the 19th, that block was doing what every American neighborhood does on a Saturday night.
What?
Lights went off one by one. Kids got tucked in. Parents finished their shifts and their dinners and their bedtime stories.
Mm-hmm.
Inside that one house on West 79th Street, 8 children were settling in.
In this house?
Shamar Snow,
Mm.
11 years old, the oldest, the helper. Marcaden Pugh, 10. Layla Pugh, 7. Kayla Pugh and Kadarian Snow, both 6. Braylon Snow and Shayla Elkins, both 5.
Mm.
And the baby of the bunch, Jayla Elkins,
Okay.
just 3 years old. 3 years old, a toddler. Still learning her full sentences. 7 of those babies shared a father. One was a cousin. All of them were hours away from being gone. Now,
Mm.
before we get into exactly what happened when the sun came up on that block, do me one favor. If you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell.
Ooh. Okay.
We tell
Okay.
these stories so that the babies like Jayla and Soraya
Yo,
and
Daddy.
Waylon don't become a number.
Daddy was getting busy.
So that the signs nobody caught the first time
7
caught the
kids?
next time. Subscribe, share this
Like 3
video
or 4.
with somebody who
He had like
needs to
3 or
hear
4
it.
baby
Cut
mamas.
and stay with me.
It's crazy.
Because the next part of this story is the part Shreveport is never going to be able to forget. The last 24 hours of those children's lives looked so normal that nobody could have called it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody. Saturday, April 18th, 2026. Shamar Elkins did what a lot of separated dads try to do when the marriage is falling apart. He leaned into the father thing. Hard.
What do you mean?
He took his oldest daughter out, just the two of them, and he posted about it online. Daddy-daughter date, burger spot, a hug on camera, some smiles. The kind of post you see your cousin put up and double tap without a second thought.
Okay.
That same afternoon, the rest of the children were where they always were on a Saturday, running around the house, watching something on a tablet, arguing over who got to pick the movie. Saraya, the 11-year-old, probably helping the little ones. Jayla, 3 years old, probably underfoot. Normal Saturday stuff.
Okay.
Shamar and his wife were in the middle of splitting up. The court date was coming. Custody. Who gets what? Who gets the kids when? Every fight you've ever had with a partner when a relationship is dying, they were having. Except with 7 children tying them together. 7 little reasons that separation was never going to be clean. 10 days before that night, Shamar had posted something about his mental health, about needing prayer. The kind of post you see and worry about for a half a second and then scroll past.
Okay. You went
His
over this
friends
already.
scrolled past it. His family scrolled past it.
Okay.
Because the man right next to it on the feed was posting pictures of his kids in their Easter outfits.
Okay.
Because the man right next to it was doing daddy-daughter dates.
Okay.
You don't think a man like that is about to snap. You just don't.
Okay.
The court date was hanging over him. The custody battle was real.
All right.
And somewhere inside that head of his, the head that had worn a uniform for 7 years, 5 minutes at that hour with no traffic. A quarter mile between the 2 women in his life, and the 8 children about to die in between. He walked into that house on
So
West
so basically he shot his girlfriend. I'm guessing that's one of his baby mamas, right? I don't know why they didn't say it like that, but he shot his girlfriend and then he went to go look for his kids to go get them as well. So, all right, let's see what's going on.
9th. His wife was there, the mother of most of his children. He shot her in the face, and then he kept going. The children were asleep. According to the
Wait. Hold on. Was this a different person he shot?
Wife was there, about to die in between. A quarter mile between 5. He left her there.
Okay.
Alive, but barely.
Okay, that's the girlfriend.
Then he got in a vehicle and he drove. Harrison Street to the 300 block of West 79th Street.
Okay.
About a quarter mile. 5 minutes at that hour with no traffic. A quarter mile between the 2 women in his life and the 8 children about to die in between. He walked into that house on West 79th. His wife was there, the mother of most of his
So he had a girlfriend and a wife. Okay.
children. He shot her in the face, and then he kept going. The children were asleep. According to the Shreveport police spokesperson, most of the children appear to have been shot in their sleep, shot in the head, one after another, a small caliber handgun in his hand. 7 little bodies. Jayla, 3, Shayla, 5, Braylon, 5, Kayla, 6, Kadarian, 6, Layla, 7, Markaden, 10, Saraya, 11.
We began with a community grieving after a
Well, hold up. So he first he went to his girlfriend's crib and shot her and left her like still somewhat alive, but like I guess she was just bleeding out. Then he drove over to his wife, shot her in the face, and then I guess his kids was in the same house as his wife, and then he went and shot each of them individually. Like, did he have a silencer or something? How did no? I mean, the kids had to hear it because they did say that the kids, at least one of the kids or 2 of them, climbed up on the roof. What the hell?
mass shooting in Louisiana. 10 people were shot in Shreveport. 8 were killed, all of them children.
And then after he did what he did at the wife's crib and took all the kids out, then he left the crib and then carjacked somebody. Like, like, did he run out of gas or something? I don't understand that.
What people think in the crevices of their mind to want to harm another human being, let alone that of children who have their whole life ahead of them.
The police spokesperson had to stand at a podium later that day and describe what his officers walked into.
This is entirely a domestic incident. So the suspect shot the mother of the child for children first, then responded to this location and shot 8 children, 7 of which being his own. There was an additional child at this residence that was not akin to him. However, we're still working on relationships and whose parents or whose. It's a very hectic scene. There's a lot to investigate, a lot to unpack, and we want to do the best we can to come up with a clear timeline, a clear reasoning, even though cases like this, the reasoning will never be fully understood. We were contacted for the shooting. Our officers responded, located the scene, located the 8 individuals, the children that were dead, and they tried to provide aid where they could, but ultimately were unable to save any of them. There was a child that jumped off the roof. We were able to get him to a hospital, and he is expected to survive. There's also 2 adult females that were injured during this mass shooting. They are both in critical condition. We are hopeful that they will survive. One is significantly more critical than the other, so we all keeping their families in our thoughts and prayers.
He didn't reach for poetry. He said the scene was disgusting and evil. He's been a cop a long time. He'd never seen anything like this. One child tried to get out, climbed up onto the roof of the house next door, trying to hide. I'm trying to disappear, trying to be anywhere else on earth. He got shot on that roof, and his little body stayed up there until the sun came up, and officers started trying to figure out where everybody was. A teenager,
That's crazy.
separate from the 8 children killed.
So they're saying one of the kids climbed onto the roof, and then he ended up shooting the kid that was on the roof, and the kid just stayed on top of the roof. You know how sad that is of a sight to see? You drive up to the house and you just see a kid laying down on the roof, and you wondering what the hell's going on? Why is there a kid laying down on the roof? That's crazy, bro.
Was also at the scene that morning. That teenager tried to escape, fell off a roof trying to get away, ended up with non-life-threatening injuries, police said, alive. But that teenager saw and heard things that no human being should ever have to carry, and is going to carry them for the rest of a long life. Right around 6 a.m., the first 911 call came in. Reports of a domestic disturbance in the 300 block of West 79th Street. Officers started rolling toward the address. By the time the first Shreveport police units pulled up, Shamar Elkins was gone. Outside, near the intersection of Linwood Avenue and West 79th, he did the next thing on his list. He carjacked somebody, took the car, drove off into the morning. Behind him, in that house, 7 children were dead in their beds. 1 was dead on a neighbor's roof. 2 women were bleeding out in 2 separate homes. A teenager was on the ground outside. And the first officer to walk through that front door on West 79th Street was about to see something that will be in his nightmares until the day he dies. The scene that greeted officers that morning was not one scene. It was 4. Harrison Street, West 79th Street, the streets in between where a carjacking had happened, and a place still miles away where the ending was still coming. Shreveport police called it an extensive scene unlike anything most of them had ever worked. In Chief Wayne Smith stood at a press conference that morning and told reporters he just did not know what to say. His heart was taken aback. He could not begin to imagine how something like this could happen.
Okay.
The Caddo Parish Coroner's Office moved in.
Damn.
They had 8 children to identify. The job fell, the way it always does in cases like this, to the mothers. 2 mothers had to walk into that building and look at their babies and say the names out loud.
Damn.
Jayla, Shayla, Kayla, Layla, Markaden, Saraya, Kadarian, Braylon. 3 boys, 5 girls, ages 3 to 11. Inside the house, detectives were piecing together the sequence. Which room each child had been in, where each shell casing had landed, which doors were touched, which doors were skipped. They determined that the small caliber handgun Shamar Elkins used in most of the shooting wasn't his only weapon that night. When he finally confronted police later that morning, he was holding what officers described as a rifle-style pistol. Assault style.
Okay.
Different weapon. Heavier firepower. This was not a man who was unprepared. This was a man who walked out of his house that morning with more than one gun on him, knowing exactly what he was about to do. The detectives will spend months trying to answer the question that every grieving person in Shreveport is asking. How? How does a father get to a place where he puts a pistol to his children's heads while they're sleeping?
Yeah.
How does a man who posted a daddy-daughter date post on Saturday afternoon end 8 children's lives on Sunday morning?
Yeah, that sounds
They
crazy.
don't have a clean answer. Nobody ever does. Shamar Elkins never saw a courtroom for this. He never faced a jury, never heard the charges read out loud. After the carjacking, he drove out of Shreveport and into Bossier Parish. Louisiana law enforcement picked up the chase. They knew who he was. They knew what he had just done. When you are hunting a man who just killed 8 children, the chase does not end easy. It ended on the 400 block of Brompton Lane in Bossier City.
Mm-hmm.
Officers confronted him. Shots were fired on both sides. When the gunfire stopped, Shamar Elkins was dead in the street. 3 officers had discharged their weapons. At first, the assumption was that police gunfire brought him down. Then came the honest admission from Shreveport police. It is unclear whether Shamar Elkins died at the hands of the officers or whether he ended things himself with that rifle-style pistol. Louisiana State Police was brought in to investigate the shooting of Elkins. That's standard anytime officers are involved in a death. Shreveport police said nothing suggests any wrongdoing by the officers who responded.
Okay.
No officers were harmed in that final exchange.
Good.
That was the one piece of anything close to good news that came out of Cedar Grove that day.
Yep.
And just like that, it was over. The man was dead. The children were dead. 2 women were in hospital beds fighting to survive. A teenager was being treated for injuries from a fall, and a whole city was waking up to a story that none of them were ready to hear. Shreveport had never seen anything like this. Not ever. City Councilman Grayson Boucher said that morning that the killings had more than doubled the city's homicides for the entire year. In a
Damn.
single morning, 1 man, 1 house. More than half of the city's murders for all of 2026. Mayor Tom Arsenault called it maybe the worst tragic situation Shreveport had ever had. The House Speaker, whose congressional district covers that neighborhood, called it heartbreaking. The governor of Louisiana said he and his wife were heartbroken. Everybody with a microphone said all the right words. The problem with the right words is that the right words don't bring 8 children back.
Okay.
Here's what this case keeps coming back to.
What?
Over 30% of the crimes in Shreveport are domestic. Over 30% of the murders in Shreveport are domestic. Domestic violence is not a private matter. It never was. It began between 2 adults in a failing marriage, and it ended with 8 caskets small enough to be carried by 1 pallbearer each. Shamar Elkins had given us a warning. Back in 2019, he fired a gun near a school full of children. The system gave him 18 months of probation and let him walk. For the next 7 years, he lived in that same community, raised those same children, and kept access to those same kinds of weapons. Nobody went back to check. Nobody revisited him. Nobody asked if the man who shot near a school might one day be the man who would shoot at a child. He told us 10 days before the killings that something was wrong. He posted about his mental health, about prayer. We all scrolled past it. Not because we didn't care. Because there are 10 posts like that in every feed every day, and we have all learned to keep moving. That has to change. If you are in a relationship where the anger is getting louder, where the control is getting tighter, where the threats are starting to...
I mean, if someone posts something about, oh, a prayer about them going through struggles and possibly needing some guidance from their faith, and asking for a sign, or some guidance in some sort of way. I mean, people post things like that all the time, and it could be anything small. It could be small as their job, or maybe they're just stressed out about um, not being where they thought they would be at this point of their life, not feeling like they are accomplishing whatever they set forth out to accomplish, and just looking for some type of sign to point them in the right direction. And sometimes people are just going through things, like whether it's like bills, like that. Not all the time people will post something like that because something life changing is really occurring. So you can't say, oh, people missed this sign right here. Like, that post was very vague. You know, it's not like he said something. If he said something in the post along the lines of like, "Oh man, like I'm going through a divorce right now, and this is tearing me apart, and I can't live without my family, and this is gonna tear me away from my family, and if she thinks she can take me away from my family, then she's gonna have to leave my family too, because I ain't going by myself. If I can't be with my family, then nobody can." Like, if the post was something like that, then clearly that's a sign that you gotta, like, hey, somebody need to step in, because that doesn't sound good at all. But if you're saying something vague, like some Bible post, some putting in a verse or something, then you can't really look at that and say, oh, that means he about to massacre his family. Like, so you can't really say that. And then the stuff that happened, what is it, like 7 years ago, whatever, about him shooting near a school. Like, I need more context with that. Like, was he shooting at kids? Was he shooting at the school, or like shooting the building, or shooting out the windows at the school? Was he just in an area where he's like a block away from the school and he shot a firearm? Like, did he shoot it in the air? Was he shooting at fucking animals? Like, what the hell was he shooting at? That needs more context, and that's because that's probably like the context is probably what led to him not receiving jail time. You know?
Feel real. Please get out. Call somebody. Tell somebody. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Call. If you are the friend or the is going to step in, daughter date post means the house is safe. Sometimes the loudest cry for help is the quietest post on a Tuesday afternoon. 8 children went to bed on a Saturday night in a neighborhood called Cedar Grove. 8 children did not wake up on Sunday morning. The youngest of them was 3 years old. Say their names. Jayla, Shayla, Kayla, Layla, Markaden, Soraya, Kadarian, Braylon. Before you
And that's him right there. I'm not gonna lie, man. 7 kids. That's tough right there. You know what I mean? 7 kids is tough. And it sounds like, based on what the story went over, um, they saying mental health. Now, as far as mental health, I can't blame that on the military, right? Because according to the story, he didn't see any war. Like, he didn't go out there and see people get killed, or like you know what I mean? Like, he didn't experience any kind of battle out there, as far as like seeing people die in front of him, or him killing people himself. So it's not like he's traumatized from that. Um, he came back with all his limbs, so it's not like he's taken like a bunch of drugs because of like pain, like physical pain at least. Um, as far as him going around having a bunch of kids, he has like 3 or 4 baby mamas, and I guess the last baby mama, his wife, I guess he figured, hey, this will be it. Finally I got my family, got my wife, and now they're going through a divorce. I mean, considering how these days, like 70% at the very least of all initiated divorces are from like women tapping out, I think it's fair to guess that maybe his wife was trying to divorce him. Um, Now that doesn't mean that she's a bad person, because we don't know why. Maybe he did something that was divorce worthy, right? Who knows? But that probably led to him snapping, you know? He probably was looking at the terms and realized that there's a good chance that he probably wouldn't have had his kids living with him, which means he would have been not seeing his kids as much, probably. And that's a probably. I mean, some parents, they do half and half, you know? And then some parents, I mean, one parent have the kid, 20 20 days out the year, and you see, and not 20 out the year, but 20 days out the month, you know, and you might see the kid for maybe, 4 days out that month, or whatever the case is. You know what I'm trying to say? Because, the every other day, every other weekend type of thing, you're seeing the kid 4 days out the month. It's kind of hard to be a parent when you're parenting 4 days out the month, Other than that, you're going to be a phone parent. You're just talking on the phone. Um, so he probably wasn't trying to do all that. He probably didn't like the way that sounded. I'm guessing he probably had that situation already with some of his kids, because he posted on on I think it was Easter, they said, that he was like celebrating being happy to have all 7 of his kids with him for Easter, as if that was like a big moment. So if you got kids all the way up until like 11 years old, and you're not used to having all your kids together like that tells me your baby mamas aren't all cool with each other. And That tells me you don't have all your kids in your household all the time, you know? So he's probably thinking if I get divorced, the kids that I've been raising that's been living with me all the time, they're not gonna be living with me anymore, probably. That's probably what he was thinking. And that probably stressed him out to the point to make him crash out, you know? The fact that he crashed out like that, that tells me he was not on good terms with any of the baby mamas. For him to crash out on the kids, that means he wanted to hurt the baby mamas. Because if you notice, he didn't fully kill them. Like they didn't die. The wife didn't die, and the girlfriend didn't die. If some of these kids is the girlfriends also, that tells me that he probably didn't want to really kill the mothers. He probably just wanted to obviously do physical damage, but ultimately he wanted to break them by taking the kids away. And then I thought he took himself out after, but from what it sounds like, he had a police chase after he stole that car from somebody, and then the cops ended up taking him out basically because of the gunfight. Whew, man, that's tough. That's tough. So that's my take from this. It seems like he wanted to hurt the mothers from all the failed relationships. He wanted to hurt them because this was another failed relationship. I guess this was probably the third or fourth baby mama that he couldn't like hold down, like stay in a successful relationship with. And he probably just snapped and decided to, you know what? I know how to hurt y'all, and he decided to take the kids out. That's what I think happened. That's what I think happened. So, and it's kind of crazy to think because it's like, bro, these are your kids too. Like hurting them, you're hurting yourself, right? But I don't know. Some people are willing to hurt themselves just to hurt you, you know? So that's crazy.